Welcome to the Aging Boomers. I'm your host, Frank Sampson, and of course on our show we discuss so many of the issues facing the baby boomers, their parents, and of course an aging population, which I'm right there in the middle of. So I want to thank everybody for all their support and so many listeners growing each and every day. Many of you have gone into iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Stitcher, all the online stations, but probably our greatest growth of listeners is coming from just people downloading our app, The Aging Boomers, on your iPhone or Android phone, and you could keep up to date on all of our great professionals and interviews and learn a lot. I get a lot of notices from people that it's their morning run or their morning walk and they listen to the show. So we're thrilled to hear that, and thank you. I want to remind everybody that today's show is sponsored by Senior Care Authority, a senior placement and elder care consulting organization that has a national network of professionally trained and experienced local advisors to assist families. They'll work with you in determining the right path for you or your loved one and discuss various long-term care options, whether it's in-home care, assisted living, memory care, nursing care, or you just need advice from an advocate. You can get it from a Senior Care Authority advisor for your loved one. So you can certainly call for a free 30-minute consultation with an advisor in your area. Contact Senior Care Authority at 888-809-1231, or you could go directly to their website at www.seniorcareauthority.com. So again, I want to thank everybody for joining us. I also want to welcome to our show today Carol Giuliani, who is the founder of Senior Travel Companion Services, a business providing customized trip planning and travel escort for individual seniors or couples. She is a former attorney with 34 years of experience as a caregiver and 23 years as a professional fiduciary and guardian for the elderly. So I would just want to welcome Carol to the show. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on the Aging Boomers. This is kind of near and dear to my heart because for most of my career, I was in the travel industry. Shifted over to providing services for seniors, and you're doing both at the same time. So I think it's wonderful. It was interesting to read a little bit about your background, Carol. So attorney, fiduciary, caregiver. So how did this happen? What led into, with that type of background, starting Senior Travel Companion Services?
Well, it's been a real evolution. I actually started with working with seniors when I was 15 years old in a nursing home in Minnesota, and got to know that I liked it and appreciated their person. So from there, I went on to college, and when I was in the middle of law school, my father had a stroke, and he was 56 years old, and I had to take over his care at that time. And so I was in my mid-20s, and then I got an education I really didn't expect to get. And I had 3 kids at home, and I ended up quitting law and taking a course to become a guardian and conservator, since I had learned a lot about managing someone's health care, decision-making, and finances at that point. So after learning that, going through that program, I spent the next 23 years, and I continued to do guardianships and conservatorships for seniors. I've got 3 folks left. I call them my 3 immortals because I've had each of them for about 10 or 12 years. And since I've been doing that, those are long-term commitments, and I've decided that instead of taking on extra folks like that for the rest of my career, I would just kind of focus on one part of the caregiving that I've been doing. And I've taken a lot of folks over the years, clients and family members, on trips, and I've taken my family on a zillion trips and gone by myself. And I thought, well, I'll just condense this down and just do the one thing that I really have been enjoying the most, and that's taking seniors places to destinations they can't otherwise get to by themselves. So that's how I got into doing my job, and I've been at it for about a little over a year and a half as a real company and as a professional in this line of work.
Are you still a practicing attorney and conservator as well?
Well, I haven't practiced law for a while. I did insurance and securities defense litigation, and I ended up quitting that when I had my 3 boys at home and my father to take care of. So that's when I got into doing the program to become a guardian and conservator. And yes, I'm still a guardian and conservator.
Got it. Wow. So tell us more, kind of a little bit more about senior travel companion services, the type of people that you were hoping to attract. I mean, are these people that have this bucket list and, maybe want your help in planning out their bucket list? Is it people that just are flying cross country and a family just wants you to be with them on that flight? Give us kind of some examples.
Sure. Well, the beauty of it is that it's customized, so I can do whatever anyone wants. And it's not so much bucket list trips. I have done a couple of those, but a lot of times I'm getting calls from family members who say, well, gee, I'd really like my dad to come to my daughter's wedding, or I would like to have my grandma at my graduation, or something like that. Or if my senior family member needs to move from one facility to another in another state to be close to a family member, or perhaps they need medical care in a different state. So I've been getting a lot of folks, mostly family members, that are saying, we really want to have this loved one with us at an event, or we want them near us. How can we do that when we can't physically do it ourselves? Or maybe it's just too inconvenient for them. There's a lot of folks out there that have their own jobs and dogs and family, and they can't really take a few days to bring someone to an event or get them transported cross-country for a move.
Interesting. What are some of the more interesting types of trips or arrangements that have been made through you?
Well, just this time last year, I actually took a couple from Minneapolis and drove them to Florida. So this was a situation, there's a lot of snowbirds here, where this couple had a 3-month rental in Sanibel, and they wanted to get down there with their dog and their car, because they didn't want to rent a car for 3 months down there. So I actually drove them down there over the course of 3 days, stopped at some Civil War battlefields on the way, and took a few breaks, and got them into their rental unit. And once we were down there, I helped them get the Wi-Fi set up and talk to the landlord about some issues that they were having with the rental property. Take them out grocery shopping and things like that. And they weren't an old couple. They were younger, in their 60s, and the gentleman had some blindness in one eye, so couldn't drive very long or very far, and certainly not at night. And his wife has early onset Alzheimer's, and so they really needed somebody to make it a safe trip, and it worked out beautifully. So I've done some driving trips like that. I took another lady down to Missouri who wanted to bury her mother's ashes, and this woman was OCD and autistic, and her mother was 93, and she wanted to drive down versus fly down, and that's not that far from Minneapolis. So we had a great experience down in Bethany, Missouri. It was a fabulous little graveside service that I really didn't expect to be so interesting and fascinating. And the people that I get to meet along the way have made these trips just wonderful for me. I've had several of those trips where I've taken people to events. I took a gentleman to Rhode Island for his granddaughter's graduation, and that was an extraordinary trip also, because the family was very interesting and fun to hang around with. And there was another trip I took a gentleman down to Tennessee. That was a bucket list trip, and he wanted to go see Graceland. And he had a caregiver he wanted to bring with him, so I do bring other people along, so that was 2 people, but he had a gentleman that stayed in his room with him, and we went to Graceland and some car shows in Nashville. Just a lot of things like that: driving trips, flying trips, weddings, Funerals, as I said, just people needing to be transported from. I took a lady recently from Minneapolis to San Francisco, and she needed to fly there to be closer to her children. So I made all the arrangements for them. They asked me to do that. Sometimes the families do it themselves, but in this case, I made the arrangements and was able to get her on the plane and cross country and moved into her new place. So it worked out beautifully for everybody.
Now, are you always going with the person, or do they ever turn to you knowing your experience in dealing with seniors just to make the arrangements? Or are you always going?
I'm always going. They can call me up and ask me for some advice about how to put a trip together, and I'm fine with that. I'll just talk to people whenever they want about that kind of thing. You know, where's the best place to go for seniors? I have, particular destinations that I think work well for vacationing seniors and things like that. But if they need some help, the travel escort is a big thing, because there's just so many people out there that need to get to a destination. And as I said, the families sometimes can't do it or don't want to do it because their senior family member is maybe difficult to deal with. Mm-hmm. Or they've been hearing those stories over and over and over from their grandmother, and they don't want to hear them on a 4-hour plane ride. So they're brand new to me. I don't care.
Right.
Sounds good to me.
I was going to ask, so how do you kind of vet, in a sense, the situation? Sometimes I know that, and this isn't all the time, all right, but sometimes adult children may talk about the challenges or regarding their loved one, and they may not tell you everything. All right. And have you ever been in a situation where you took on someone who you were going to travel with and realized that maybe their level of care was greater than you should be handling?
I wouldn't go that far to say I shouldn't be handling it. But you're right. I have talked to people and traveled with people that turned out to be a little bit more, took a little more care than I expected. And what I'll do in advance is meet with the family and go through a questionnaire and meet with the individual and determine what it is that they're going to need for insofar as helping to get to where they need to go. And also the caregivers, if they're in an assisted living or something like that, I'll particularly talk to them because they see them on a daily basis. And sometimes the family members think, yes, they do all this walking, and yes, they can transfer so easily, and that might not be the case. So I'm pretty particular about learning what the realm of that is. And once there was an occasion where I took a gentleman on a trip, and he was pretty high maintenance, I guess you would say, but not anything more than I could handle. But it went very well, as a matter of fact. And so the next trip I went on, I told the family, well, there's a couple of things that let's do it a little bit differently. I'll give them some suggestions on how it would make it easier for this gentleman to transfer, and because he was paralyzed on one side and he needed to get out of his wheelchair and into the car, and he could do that. But to make it easier, for example, I said he probably needs a cushion, a seat cushion on his wheelchair, one of those 4-inch plastic padded things. So it's easier for him to get up and out instead of what he's doing now, which is basically trying to climb out of a hammock. And he was so pleased. I put it into the budget. I bought the thing for him, brought it to him a week in advance, let him try it out. And he was so pleased to have that thing, and it was easier for him to get in and out, and just kind of made life a little easier for both of us.
That's great. That's great. So do you ever get involved? How large of usually just taking individuals or couples. Do you ever get into escorting a group of them, a group of people?
No, I've been asked to do that several times, but I think there's a lot of agencies out there, a lot of businesses that can take groups of folks, and that can particularly take seniors on trips. So I think that market's already been pretty well covered, and there's a lot of, folks will do cruises or do tours or trips that are sponsored by different companies. So, no, I've just been really concentrating on one or two people so I can do the personal experience and I don't have to worry about a lot of other folks being in the mix.
Got it. Well, is there certain insurance that you require the family to take out on the particular senior prior to the trip?
No, I actually leave it up to them. I work with an outfit called Depart Smart. They are a travel advocacy nonprofit, and they have a checklist of things that you need to do to go on any kind of international vacation, especially, and it includes travel insurance. So I always recommend that they get travel insurance because, with this population, anything can come up at the last minute. So I'll recommend travel insurance. As for myself, I have a LLC, so I have a waiver of liability and things like that. Being an attorney, I have all the paperwork that you need to have a business like this. Right. And I make sure that they understand that travel can be, a little bit risky, but the aging boomers want to have a little risk in their life.
That's right.
So I think they very much understand that there may be things that come up, and I can't prevent everything. But if they want to get somewhere, we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that it happens safely and securely. So I put together a plan as comprehensive as I can get it, and it's executed like a military operation. So from start to finish, I know what's going to happen. You can't expect everything to go exactly right, but to the extent that I can plan it out, it's well planned.
So what suggestions do you have to families who are planning a trip like this? I mean, what should they make sure they have together and planned, before even contacting you?
Well, I think they need to discuss it with their senior and just make sure that they're comfortable with it. There are seniors that really don't or can't really travel anymore. But generally, if they bring it up or the senior brings it up, it's something that everybody wants to have happen. So basically, it's just getting that person on board, and after that, giving me a call, and then I'll put the program together. And then I have all those questions that I'll ask them. When was the last time you traveled? What kind of anxiety might you have about traveling? What's your biggest concern? What was your last favorite place that you went to? Besides all of course, the medical information and the details for contacts and emergencies and things like that. So just kind of the communication starts with the family and the senior, and and the care facility if they need to get the permission and all the stuff set up so that that person could either be permanently moved or have a temporary leave of absence.
Okay, all right, good. Now, are you the only senior travel companion right now in your business, or are you starting to develop others to do the same?
No, I'm the only one who's doing it right now, and I've had a lot of people say, "Oh, that sounds so wonderful! You just get on a plane and go to these exotic places with seniors."
Yeah, not so easy.
And I'll tell them, "Well, sometimes it's an easy trip, but generally, you have to have a lot of patience, and you really have to know what you're doing." And with my 34 years of caregiving experience and having been in the industry for so many decades, I know a little bit about everything about senior care, from the health aspect of it to the technology, everything, the opportunities for home health care and the kind of things that you provide. So generally, I now I forgot the question. I'm sorry.
No, you got it. We got it. What would you say, speaking about your background, what part of your background best prepared you for this work?
Oh, I think, I've taken a lot of trips. Like I said, I've been to South America, Europe, the Caribbean, pretty much all over the place. And I've had to plan trips for my family with my 3 boys from start to finish. And I've done most of those myself. I mean, I've done a cruise or two and some things that I've done with tour groups. But just putting vacations together, just putting travel trips together, I do that all the time. I just did one yesterday that a glitch came up with, and I had to fix it for my son, for example. So I've been doing a lot of that kind of traveling, and then just traveling with seniors on the occasions that I did it before I started the business. And then just working with the seniors for so many years and knowing what they're going to need, when a sense of humor is going to come in useful, how to be tenacious and get what you want for that senior. Just having the I think the personality and the ability to anticipate what that senior is going to need.
What's the craziest request you ever had since you've been in business, whether you accepted the work or not?
Well, I have one right now that I'm working on, and it's a gentleman who's got some weight issues and mobility issues, and he wants to go to a warm weather destination, and apparently he's very into gambling and drinking and the ladies of the evening. So I've been told that if I take him on this trip, I'm going to need to curtail some of his hedonistic tendencies. So that's going to be a fun one. You know, I've had a lot of little quirky things come up with the folks along the way. You never know what kind of personality you're going to get with someone, and generally it turns out to be a lot of fun, and it turns out to be an interesting experience, and that's what I do this for. I do it to have these life experiences, and because I can, and I feel good about it. You know, yeah, a minute ago you were asking about having other people do this. Well, you know, if they could clone me, that'd be great. But, you know, they can't, and if I find other people that want to do this at some point and my business grows to that extent, we'll see when it happens. But right now I'm just happy with the way things are going. And so when someone says, well, what do you do if there's an emergency that comes up? And I said, well, you know, I can handle that. I've handled catastrophes before. And what do you do if, you know, or isn't this so fun and easy to take these people on trips? Well, you know, there's poop sometimes, and you have to deal with those kinds of things. And so, you know, I've had those kinds of experiences when I've had to, you know, take care of things that I didn't really anticipate, but that's part of the job.
Do you find that if the arrangements are being made, let's say, by a family member, like an adult child, who's more apprehensive in the planning, the adult child or the senior themselves?
Well, if they're going to do the flights and the hotel arrangements and things like that, usually the adult child feels like they know what they're doing. They don't always. I mean, I've had people set up the travel planning part of it and not get handicap rooms or not make proper arrangements for the flights. So that's when I get apprehensive. I guess the senior doesn't really know what's coming up necessarily, and the family member thinks they're getting it right. But if the family member's planning it, I like to make sure that we have good flight times, non-stops, you know, good seating on the airplane, all near the bathroom. All those things need to be considered and taken care of. So I would say it's more me than anybody.
So the website, tell us how people can learn more about your company, whether it be any contact information that you'd like to share with our listeners.
Sure. My website is called seniortravelcompanionservices.com. I know it's a long one, but it really describes what it is that I do. And I have had a couple people that have hired me just from Googling those several words, and those have been good opportunities. So you can contact me through the website, which is constantly under construction. And on the website, I have a lot of testimonials and photographs of the folks that I've taken on trips. I mean, almost all of them, because most of the people will allow me to take photos and to post them. A couple not so much, but that's the way it is. And I also can be contacted on this phone line at 952-946-7997. And I have a Gmail, which is just my name at this point, Carol S. Giuliani, S as in Sam, Giuliani at Gmail. And Giuliani's Giuliani. So that's the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Great. And even though you're based in the Twin City area, you know, you can handle people anywhere in the country, correct?
Right. I got a call from a gentleman who wants me to take he and his wife from Florida to New York in the spring to stay with their son for a few months to make a nice long visit. And the thing about that that's funny is that this is another one of those the situations that you were just asking about, they want to go in an RV because she has back problems and is not comfortable flying in a plane for any length of time, or actually sitting in a car, and they want to make a road trip out of it. So they said, can you take us in an RV? And so I did my research, and I found out, yes, there is a way to do a one-way RV trip from Florida to New York. And so this May, I'm going to contact them again, and we're going to see if we can set this up.
That's great. That's great. So we've just got another minute or two, but maybe what are some questions you wish I would have asked you that I haven't asked you? Let's just, or you could share any additional information that you'd like with our listeners.
Okay. Well, I think you've asked pretty much everything that I would want to answer. But I guess my point of I'm trying to get across to people now is, for one thing, it's the children of the seniors that are usually contacting me. And people ask me sometimes, well, how is this affordable? Well, I get paid for my expenses, and then either I'll charge a tip or a fee, depending on what I think the case is going to involve. If it's a very high-maintenance thing, I might say, okay, well, this is probably a daily fee that I would want to include because it's going to be a 12-hour day, something like that. Or just give them a good range of what it's going to be. And when I hear folks say, well, gee, what about this senior that wants to go on this long trip and we don't think we can afford it? And I'll say, well, I'll work it within your budget, see what it is that we can afford. We can tailor it any way that you want to. And if that senior doesn't have money, it doesn't mean they can't travel. I mean, sometimes the families will kick in for a Christmas present so that grandma can go to that wedding, or find some other way to make it a possibility. But I really think that there's a lot of seniors out there that are isolated and don't have the opportunity to go to events that they or their family would love to have them at. And it's important for me to be able to give them that opportunity. So if there's folks out there that want to make it happen, and that senior wants to be at that wedding and do that toast, and everybody wants to have them there, then I'll be happy to work with them and see what it is that we can figure out, or offer whatever advice I can. Great.
Well, Carol Giuliani, founder of Senior Travel Companion Services, and you could connect to learn more about what Carol's doing at www.seniortravelcompanionservices.com. Thank you for joining us on the Aging Boomers, Carol. It was a wealth of information. Very exciting what you're doing, and best of luck.
Thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great having you. And again, thank you all for joining us on the Aging Boomers. Just be safe out there, and we'll talk to you all soon.